All right, hello, people of Earth, and welcome to another episode of this Just For Giggles podcast. I'm still your host, Aubrey Friedrich, and as you can tell by the slightly mildly alarming title, I've got quite the story for today. And to make a long story short, your girl at the wonderful age of 17 was diagnosed with generalized tonic-clonic epilepsy. So I'm going to tell the story about how that all came to be today. But before I get into that, I was scrolling on TikTok earlier today, as one member of Gen Z does in this wonderful year of 2025. And something that's really bothering me lately is how scripted and annoying TikTok shop ads are. Like, I'm just trying to scroll, see all these silly, goofy videos that make me laugh all day, every day. And I'm just like, blah, blah, blah. And oh my God, they're so bad. I can't do it. Anyway, I just really wanted to share that, get that off my brain. Anyway, so flashback, the year's 2023. To be super specific, it is September 19th. And I wake up, I get ready to go to school, and I had like a mild headache that day. Nothing too crazy. I mean, it was just like, it's a headache. Get over it. You're going to be fine. I go to school. I get my stuff together. And we weren't like allowed in the classrooms before like the bell rang. I don't really care for the reason why that was. We just weren't. Doesn't matter. And I sat down next to one of my friends. And we were chatting for a little bit. And I had my hair tucked behind my ear. And he was like, "Girl, your ear is bleeding." And I was like, "Excuse me?" So I had him take a picture of my ear, and whoa, stutter. I didn't cut it, but like the inside of my ear was cut. Fun fact, the technical term for the outer part of your ear is your auricle. So like you could still see, it's not like my ear canal was bleeding or anything. But I was just like, well, this is interesting. So he went with me down to the nurse to, get it all cleaned up or whatever. He went on his merry way. Me and the nurse were chatting, blah, blah, blah. Got it all cleaned up. And by the time I went back to class, like school had already started. And mind you, my junior and senior year of high school, I went to this like trade school / high school hybrid thing where I was actively getting my cosmetology license as well as finishing high school at the same time. And at the beginning of the school day, I was in what we called lab, where we were just like practicing on our mannequins and stuff. So I walk in and I'm like, yeah, my ear was bleeding. I've got a bit of a headache, but overall I'm okay. And the rest of my class had already learned the skill for the day. We were learning like lightener retouches or something. So I have the instructor teach it to me one-on-one, and then I get started. And I get like a little bit in, very little. And I turn to look at my instructor and I'm like, "Girl, I do not feel good. I need to go home." And she's like, "Okay, that's fine, blah, blah, blah." So I clean up my mess. I don't even know if I cleaned it up entirely, but I end up gathering all of my things and walking myself down to the office. And I'm like, and I tell like the person at the desk, I don't know what her position was, but like, I told him like, "Hey, I need to go home. I don't feel good," or something like that. I don't know if we had to like talk to the nurse again or whatever, but I remember I had my phone on me and I texted my parents and I was like, "Hey, be prepared for a phone call from the school. I don't feel good and I'm coming home." And they were like, "Okay, sure, whatever." So they end up giving me like a little. Anyway, I go home and the only person in the house at the time was my older sister. So I gave her the little rundown of what had happened, and I was telling her that I just didn't feel so good. And I put all my stuff down, and I went to use the bathroom, and I noticed there was blood on the floor. And I was like, well, I know I don't, I guess that makes sense? Not really. And I also noticed that I only had one contact in. I noticed that while I was driving home. And that extra contact of mine was also sitting on the bathroom floor. That's really alarming because I really can't see without my contacts. So I tell my older sister this whole story, and then I can't remember exactly, but I took a nap And then I woke up and I was talking to my sister some more. My dad came in the house because, he does his things on the farm or whatever. And I was giving him the whole story because by that point I had felt completely fine after I took this nap. It was like a whole thing. I don't really know. But that's about all of the story that there was for that day. I tell the rest of my family what was going on that night at dinner. I think that's just about all of the story that there is for that day. It's just a mild precursor because it's just a needed backstory for what's about to come next. Flash forward like 2 months, I think. October, yeah, November. The lovely day, November 17th, 2023. I'm going to tell you what I do remember because this day from start to finish was crazy. I wake up like I normally do, turn off my alarm. I actually probably snoozed it 2 or 3 times if I'm being honest. I go and I start a pot of coffee as I do. I put a bagel in the toaster, and then while the coffee was brewing and the bagel was in the toaster, I went back to my room and put on my uniform. Then I came back out in the kitchen, got the coffee, put it in a little cup, got my bagel, whatever. And then I went back to this is like so bad, but I brought the bagel and my cup of coffee into the bathroom to get ready with me. Yeah, call me weird. I was weird. I'm still weird to this day, but not that kind of weird. But that is all I remember. The next thing I know, I am laying on the floor with my dad and I think my mom and 2 or 3 EMTs just staring at me. And I don't know why I'm laughing. I wasn't laughing at the time. I was confused. And they're asking me what my name is. If I know what's going on, where I'm at, blah, blah, blah. And then eventually my dad and one of the EMTs lifts me off the ground and puts me on a chair that they have sitting in our hallway. What a wild morning. And I'm sitting in the hallway on this chair, and all of them are asking me the same questions, and I'm just more confused than anything. And I remember one of the EMTs looks at my dad, and he was, well, both of my parents, but my dad was standing closer to him. And he was like, "We can take her in if you want. It's completely up to you." And my dad was like, "Well, something kind of like this has happened before, so we should probably take her in." So then they did. They asked me are you good to stand up and walk by yourself? And I was like, yeah. So they helped me stand up. So they told me to grab my things, and I walk into my room because our house is all one level, so there's no stairs for me to be climbing. And I walk into my room, and I kid you not, wait, hang on. No, I didn't bring my cup of coffee and the bagel into the bathroom. It was still in my room because I walked back into my room and I grabbed my book bag and the cup of coffee. And my dad and the EMT were like, "Oh, honey, put that down. You're not going to school today." I remember that so vividly. So I don't really remember what I grabbed because I think my phone was already in my pocket. I walked out to the little EMS vehicle or whatever you want to call it. They helped me climb in the back. It was probably needed, but again, I'm still a little foggy up in the noggin. I'm laying down on the little gurney thing or whatever, and my mom is in the back with the one EMT, and apparently we know him somehow. I kind of know him. I never crossed paths with him before, but I know of him. And my dad took one of our vehicles up to the hospital, and it was very chill, no sirens or anything, but we just drove our way there. But before we left my house, the EMT guy was asking me a bunch of questions, my name, where I am, and he asked me for my social security number, and I rattled off the whole thing like the baddie that I am, and he looked at me and he was like, "Wow, most people your age don't even know the last 4 digits." And I was just like, I feel so cool right now. But at the same time, I'm just kind of bleh, half in, half out. I'm aware, but not enough. Anyway, so we go to the hospital. I can't remember whether or not I walked in or I got like wheeled in. Doesn't really matter. Yeah, I genuinely don't know what happened right here. But I ended up getting a room, and they like did some like blood tests or whatever. They gave me, well, they took some blood, whatever, and they were like, nothing seems abnormal. She just has like an elevated white blood cell count. And for those of you who don't know, white blood cells are the ones that are used to like fight infection or like they help heal injury. So, I mean, I'm no doctor, but whatever. So they were like, we think she's just dehydrated, so we're gonna give her a bag of IV fluids and we'll send you on your merry way. So, I'm just chilling and I'm like kind of texting like my classmates, being like, hey, I'm not coming to school today. I'm at the hospital. I really have no idea what's going on. And they're like, oh, hope you're okay, feel better, blah, 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 blah. So the I all of the fluids go into my body, whatever, and me and my mom and my dad leave. And we're on our way home. They're like, hey, while we're in town, because we live in the middle of a freaking cornfield, so we had to like drive a bit. They were like, so while we're in town, we should get some food. What sounds good? And we were driving, and we like are driving by a Happy Days. And my dad points it out. And I was like, ooh, I haven't had Happy Days in a while. And that's the last thing I remember. And according to my parents, my mom was like, because my dad was driving, my mom was like, she's doing it again. She's doing it again. And my dad's like, what do we do? What do we do? My mom's like, turn around, turn around. Okay. So we pull back up to the hospital. Again, I don't remember this. This is just all stories that I've been fed. And I go back into the hospital, or actually, I have no idea. But somewhere along the lines, like the receptionist and my parents, they were like, we didn't expect to see you guys back so soon. And they were like, whatever. I end up back in the hospital, back on a bed, and they're like, hey, we can switch you into a gown since you might be here for a while. So my school uniform consisted of like a polo and a pair of like scrub pants. So they had me like take off the polo and switch into the gown. So I was wearing the gown and the pants. And it was such a weird day in general. But then I can't really remember what happened after that. I can't remember if they needed to put another needle in my arm. I don't know if they were taking more blood or if they were giving me another IV. I don't know. But they tried in my other elbow and they couldn't find a vein or whatever. So then they tried it in my one hand. And if any of you guys have ever had an IV in your hand, you know how incredibly uncomfortable it is because anytime you move your hand in the slightest, you feel it. And I had that thing in my hand for the next several hours. I kid you not. Let's continue with the story. But they were like, I don't really remember all of the details, but they were like, we're going to transfer you down to Nationwide Children's Hospital in Columbus. Okay, no new news to me. They're like, a transport vehicle is going to be here for you at 7 o'clock. Okay, fine, whatever. I pretty much spend most of that day sleeping, and when I'm not sleeping, I'm probably just like texting my friends or whatever. That IV is still in my hands. My hand, singular. Anyway, 7 o'clock rolls around. Some weird noise just happened in my like throat or whatever. I hope that didn't pick up in the mic because that would have been so weird. But anyway, 7 o'clock rolls around. They wheel me out, put me in the little vehicle thing, and my mom. Actually, I think I don't know where my mom was sitting. She might have been in the front because my dad stayed at home. But I was hanging out with the little transport dude in the back, make sure I'm not dying. And I felt like I wanted to go on my phone, but like I felt so weird, like he was looking over my shoulder. So if I was on my phone, it was for like no longer than 5 minutes. And I was just like texting my friends, if that. Like I wouldn't go on any form of social media because I didn't want to have to do anything with volume. Okay, we get there. What is it? Probably like 9 o'clock at that point, 9:30. I don't know. Maybe even 10. I'm still wearing that same gown and pants, and I still have the IV in my arm, I think. Actually, I don't know when that IV got taken out of my arm, if I'm being honest. Anyway, we sit in the waiting room of this children's hospital. So I see all of these like young children walking around, and I like at one point I looked at my mom and I was like, dude, I feel like I don't belong here. And it was like, I don't think we got a room until like maybe 3 in the morning. I don't know. But at one point there was this, I don't know how old this guy was, but he was maybe like same age as me. Something wrong with his like leg or his knee. He was on crutches. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's somebody like around the same age as me. So at least I wasn't like completely alone in the matter. I got a room, and I don't really know the exact time frame of anything that happens after this. But they hooked me up to an EEG. I don't exactly know. It's an electro something gram. I don't know. I should know, but I don't. Pretty much they attached like 30 wires to my head and scanned my brain for like an hour and like all of the electrical impulses going on. And obviously there was stuff wrong with my brain. So they got me hooked up with a neurologist, and I think like the next day or something, she sat me down. They gave me and my mom, I don't know if my dad was there at the time, they gave me the rundown of you have generalized tonic-clonic epilepsy, gave the family the whole rundown of what to do if I have another seizure. Then we talked about the meds that I was being prescribed, one that's like an emergency nasal spray where if I have a seizure and I don't come out of it within 5 minutes, put it up my nose, spray it. If I'm having a seizure, lay me on my side, protect my head, you know. And at first I'm just like, okay, whatever. So I eventually go home, and over like the next like 2 days, I keep getting texts from all of my friends, all of my mom's Facebook friends, teachers from my school saying like, "Hey, I heard about what happened. I hope you're doing okay." Blah blah blah. It's a small town, so everybody knows everything so fast. But I go back to school like the next whenever, because I think it might have been a Friday. Doesn't matter. But at some point, I go back to school, and I'm trying to I go and talk to my school nurses because not only did I go to that hybrid school I talked about earlier, but I also still went to like the OG school that I went to from K to 12, I guess, but K to 10 anyway. So I'm talking to both of them about the rundown, and I'm talking to all of my teachers in case anything happens while I'm in their class. And for like the next like week and a half, they're all like, I've been watching so many of these videos to make sure that I can keep you safe, blah blah blah. And I'm like, dang, this is insane. Like, maybe I'm just underreacting, but wow. The outpouring love and support was crazy. But eventually, once the diagnosis really sat in for me, like, became real in my mind, I had this like lingering thought of something called SUDEP, standing for sudden unexpected death in epilepsy. And for those of you who don't know, Cameron Boyce actually passed away from this. And if you don't know who he is, I grew up watching him on like Disney Channel all the time, and like Jesse and the Descendants franchise. Oh, he was, God bless, rest in peace. But like, I was scared that that was going to happen to me. Like, I was terrified, beyond terrified. And I guess in that situation, like, I talked to both of my guidance counselors from my school, and I was like, I was freaking out, and they were like, they couldn't offer me like so like much advice or like anything because nobody around me was going through what I was going through. Like, there was nobody that was experiencing something similar to this. And just in general, I had started to push myself away from all of my friends, and like I closed myself off, which definitely wasn't a good thing, but I feel like at some point in life we all fall victim to doing something like that. And over the next several months, I just found myself in a really dark place. I felt like I had nobody to talk to or confide in about this stupid problem. And not to mention, the one medication that my neurologist started me on didn't work. So I had started off on like whatever dose it was. And then every time I had a seizure, because by the end of this whole journey, or it's not the end, the journey continues. But up until this point, I've had a total of 10 seizures, 10 grand mal seizures. But she started me out on the one medication and it didn't work. So we kept going and increasing it until we maxed out. So I couldn't take any more. Then we started, and the most common side effect on that one was tiredness and sleepiness, which at first was bruh, are you real? Because I had to take it at morning and night, and at night it was fine, but in the morning, I was not having it. Not a happy camper. I've never been a morning person, or at least then I wasn't a morning person. Right now it's not so bad, but then they started me on another one in addition to it, and they're the most common side effect is I can tell you that it comes with some sort of rash or whatever. And I didn't have it, so I was chilling and I kept having seizures, so then she kept increasing the dose of that one. And at one point, I don't think this really had anything to do with my medications, but I went and I had a long-term monitoring EEG, so I spent 24 hours in the hospital where they scanned my brain with all these wires. And I did that twice. I've done that twice, and I hope I never have to do it again. But they stick all the 30 wires onto my head, and I hope none of you guys have to do that, because it is such aggravating, and it's not per se super painful, but it's just uncomfortable. I have a lot of hair on my head. I mean, right now it's not really long, but it's just really thick. But they have to part your hair and measure it to make sure it's centered or whatever. And they take this skin safe crayon or whatever, and they make the little marks on where to put it. And then once they have all the marks, they have to go back and scrub the marks off and put this stanky glue on your head to attach the wires. And it hurt because the crayon hurt, and then scrubbing it off hurt even more. And then of course they once they were all stuck, they did all these baseline things where I had to blow on a little fan thing to keep it spinning, get my heart rate up or whatever, because I'm laying down. And they'd flash lights in my face at different speeds, or they'd have me try and fall asleep and other things like that. And then once they were all attached, they essentially put this sock, net sock thing on my head, and I have a big head, so it was too tight and it hurt, and I had to have that thing on my head for 24 hours. And I had all of the wires were held together in this box, but they put a Huggies size 3 diaper on it, so it wasn't gonna hit me and hurt me or anything. But I was pretty much attached to this massive cord thing for the next day. So I was bed rotting to the max. And I had to eat hospital. By the time I was done with this whole shindig, I had the hospital menu down to a T, and I knew what I liked and what I didn't. And dude, their parfaits kind of hit low key. They were really good. Everything else was kind of mid, but the parfaits hit. Sleeping with that thing was uncomfortable. Anytime I had to use the bathroom, I had to drag this really long cord with me. It was bad. And then the next morning, because I'd always have to get there in the morning, the next morning, before I was even prepared to wake up, they'd have people come in and start scrubbing the wires and glue off my head, and they were supposed to get it all off, but they never did. So then I had to go take a shower in the hospital shower with the baby shampoo that they gave me, and I'd be scrubbing with that low pressure water, and it would never work. I'd be scrubbing and scrubbing and scrubbing and scrubbing, and I'd still never get it all out. Ever. So not only did I have the glue in my hair, but I had the oily substance that was supposed to dissolve it in my hair, and I felt disgusting. I think I had 3 showers later, I eventually got it all out. I don't recommend. You guys seriously don't get it. It is so bad. From various hospital visits, I've gotten a little coloring book that I was because every time I'd get visited, they'd be catching up, and obviously I'd tell them that I'm bored. And one time they brought me a coloring book and some colored pencils, and I think I colored 1 page in that coloring book. One time they gave me a deck of cards so I could play freaking solitaire or something. I still have that deck, and I still have the coloring book. I think I just I use the cards more than the coloring book, obviously. One time there there was this guy. I love this guy. He was pretty cool. But he came like he was going from room to room with this game, and it was like a combination of tic-tac-toe and like cup pong or whatever. I'm not going to go into details on how to describe how to play the game, but we did like best 2 out of 3, and I of course beat him. Or maybe it was best 3 out of 5, doesn't matter, but I beat him. I remember in the hospital rooms they had like the little lights or whatever, and I'd always put them on pink because if you know, you know. Or like anytime I was in the hospital, I'd like take all of the little goodies, like, you know, like how they have them at the hotel. You obviously got to take them, like all of the complimentary things, I should say. Any other interesting hospital stories while I'm thinking about it? I don't know, but maybe I'll think about it. Oh my gosh, I forgot. Once I got put on that second medication, you know, they like maxed me out on that one. And then my neurologist was like, "Oh, well, we're worried about you like having absence seizures because oh, I left out the most like massive detail ever. While you're like currently having seizures, you're not allowed to drive. So I think I spent over a year not being able to drive because I had seizures for so long. Because per my neurologist, I can't drive. I couldn't drive for 6 months after having a seizure, which is crazy. So every time I'd have one, because I'd have one like every 3 weeks or so, I'd get so mad, and that just caused me to push myself farther and farther from people because, again, nobody my age was experiencing something like this. And absence seizures, dude, I can't talk in a straight line. But they were worried about me having absence seizures, which are like the ones where you just like stare off into the distance and like zone out completely. And I'm not talking like normal people zone out and you're like thinking about something. Like I'm talking zone out, like your brain like moderately shuts down. Shut down is dramatic, but I don't think I've ever had one. I zone out a lot, but like trust me, I'm thinking about something. So she started me on this new medication. I'm still taking it to this day. And it like causes like nausea or whatever, which isn't great. But we eventually took me off of the first medication. Yippee. Oh my gosh, I sustained so many injuries from this whole thing. Actually, yeah, I'm gonna talk about this first. There was every single time I had a seizure, except for that one seizure I had in the back of my mom's car, was in our bathroom while I was getting ready for school. There was one time where I like popped like several blood vessels in one of my eyes. So for like a week straight, I just had like a bloodshot eyeball, and I had to walk around with people looking at me like I was crazy. It's kind of funny. I'd take pictures of it like every single day because I thought it was gross and hilarious. Plus, it's just for documentation purposes. And also, like my neurologist like requested like videos or whatever whenever possible for like I don't know, research purposes or whatever, like while I was seizing. That one was truly a blessing. There was one time in our bathroom like set up is we like have the toilet, and then like there's maybe like a foot and a half, 2 feet, and then the like counter or whatever. And one time I was having a seizure and I fell between the two. So I was banging my head on the side of the counter and on the toilet, just, you know, doing my thing. And I have the video of that one. It was those videos are never gonna see the internet. Sorry. Not sorry, actually. But that's definitely a memory. There was one time I fell into the bathtub because we have like one of those like bathtub slash shower things in this said bathroom, but I fell into the bathtub. And I remember like slowly coming to, and I was like, my feet are numb and like my legs hurt because my legs are like hitting the like step thingy. I don't know how to describe it, but in my brain I do. And I like wake up and I realize I'm in the bathtub, and then I like go back to sleep, and I repeat that process like 3 or 4 more times. And then I'm pretty sure somebody helped me out. I don't really know, but it's a good story. There was one time, it might have been from one of these seizures that I just described, but I just woken up, regained consciousness, and my dad was sitting in the bathroom, like right next to me on the floor. He was sitting on said bathtub ledge, and he's like rubbing my shoulder, blah, blah, blah. And I'm trying to take his sock off over his work boots. And I'm like, I can't get it off. And he's like, it's okay, I don't want it off. And I'm literally start crying. I'm like, I don't get it. And he's like, it's okay. That's probably one of my favorite videos of me I have because I just look so stupid. There was one seizure that I had. Well, I gotta figure out how to say this and make it make sense. Like I've mentioned several times so far, I went to this trade school or whatever. And I was gonna go to a Skills USA competition and compete in like the nails category because I don't know, it was just cool or whatever. And I had been practicing for like a month or two or something. And the day of the competition came by, boom, as we all know, seizure. So I didn't get to go, which is really unfortunate, and I beat myself up about it for months. Like I felt really bad. I felt really guilty. I was really upset. I was not having a great time in any capacity. Recently, well, I don't know if it's recently, May 25th, 2024 was the day I had my last seizure. Fingers crossed, knock on wood, that's the last seizure I'll ever have. And I've since then become over 1 year seizure free, and I threw myself a party for it. And I was like, some people might think this is so stupid, but to me it means a lot because I've been dealing with this, and this is something that's like really close to my heart, and it means a lot to me, and I think it's really important. And I think it's something in general that people need to bring more light to because it affects so many people, and it just truly isn't talked about enough. So I got a nice group of my friends together, and we went out to Beer Barrel, and we were all dressed really cute and nice. And I remember we went to the table, and there were 7 of us that could make it to this dinner that I was having. And they sat us at a table of 8, and I sat down at like the head of the table, or the one head of the table. The other one was empty. Like we left that chair empty just so I could like see everybody's beautiful faces. And I sat down in the chair, and the chair was so like slidey against the floor. We were all laughing, and then our waiter came by, and he was like, I don't know why it does that. And our waiter, man, one of our friends was like flirting with him like as a joke, and I think she literally left her number at the table when we left. At some point during the dinner, we got him to give us like a tattoo tour. I don't remember what his name was. One of my friends like looked him up on Facebook and Instagram. I don't know if she ever like followed him or anything. But we definitely, all of us in general, like caught up with each other in a great deal. Not to mention that same day was also one of my friends. Well, she's also like my cousin. It was her birthday, and actually, when we showed up to dinner, like the last ones to show up brought me this lovely crown on the top of my head. So I'm wearing it. And half the table didn't know it was her birthday, so I let her wear the crown during dinner. And she got a free dessert at the end of our dinner, of course, as all restaurants should do. And they bring it out, and I'm clapping super loud, and I'm cheering super loud, and we're all just having a really good time. And then I think we're getting close to leaving, but a teacher from the trade school that me and 2 of the other girls from this party went to, because the other 4 went to like my quote unquote home school. At least that's what we call it. I don't know if that's going to make sense to anybody else that's not familiar with the situation. But he came over and he was talking to us and blah blah blah. It just made our day because I loved that guy. He wasn't even like a teacher. He was part of like the administration staff or something. I don't even know. But I could tell you that like he monitored the parking lot, and every single day at the end of the day he'd be like right at like the driveway is just weird, but like where the road meets like the pull in, exit, whatever. And he'd be giving fist bumps. And you already know I'd be giving him fist bumps every day as long as he was out there or whatever. Truly such a blessing. Anyway, after that, I went and I hit up the local Dairy Queen and got an ice cream cake. And we came back to my house, took lots of cute little pictures, talked some more, ate the ice cream cake, talked even more. And then eventually we all dispersed. Everybody went home. And since then, I've been living quite the life. I've been living quite the life since I was born, let's be honest. But I think through this whole thing, I've just learned to make the most of it. And I'm genuinely grateful that this is something that I have and it's something that I get to experience. I mean, is it the most pleasant all the time? No. But I'm fortunate enough to be able to share my experience and, like I said, bring more light to it because it truly is something that is not talked about enough, and we need to spread awareness because there's a lot that goes on that people don't see or people won't talk about, or some people don't even want to talk about. But I knew as soon as this podcast or whatever like became an idea that I was going to pursue, I was like, I'm going to talk about this whether people like it or not, because I think it's something that truly is important. And I'm so glad that I've been able to tell this story with you all. I feel like there's definitely details in there that I left out. Most definitely, because probably when I go back and cut out all the empty space from me, like stuttering or trying to breathe, I'll be like, oh, I forgot to mention this or that or whatever. I did forget something. And I'm going to tell it because it's really important. After all of this stuff, like, I mean, while it was still kind of going on, I was asking like my friends and my family for like their sides of the story from when I was actively having seizures. And on that lovely day of November 17th, my dad, I think I collapsed in the bathroom, and I think my little sister like screamed for help, and my parents came into the bathroom, or at least my dad anyway, because my dad's like the only person that's like mentioned in this story. My dad like yells at my little sister to call the EMS, and my little sister's like freaking out, and she like dials 911 but doesn't hit, like, I don't remember whether she said she didn't hit the call button or she just didn't talk to them on the phone. But either way, she dials it. They show up. Everybody's like freaking out. I remember at some point I was talking to one of my guy friends about it, and I showed him the video of me like having the seizure between the toilet and the counter in my bathroom, and he was like, I thought you were gonna die when I first like found out. And I was like, whoa, that's wow. So to know that people cared about me that much really meant a lot to me. Thankfully, I'm still here today. Hopefully, I'm still here for a long while. A funny thing to note is that our bathroom is like right above my older sister's room. So anytime she heard like a big thud, like me collapsing, she'd like wake up and run upstairs to make sure I was okay. Most of the time I was seizing, and then I could, oh my gosh. Anytime I would drop something anywhere in the house, I'd have to like yell that I'm okay. I wasn't really allowed to be anywhere with the door locked. Like, it always had to be unlocked in case something happened. What other interesting things were there? Definitely more, but like I said, I'll probably forget about it. Well, I'll probably remember it later. What other good stories do I have? Oh, there was one day at school where I didn't really have, like, there was no seizure that day. I went to school and I was minding my business. And I was like telling my classmates, because my first through like third, fourth-ish period, I was in said lab practicing on mannequins or whatever. And it was one of those days where we could all just like work on whatever skill. Like, we had a list of skills to practice for the week, and we all could just like pick one or whatever and work on it. It was one of those days, and I was like telling my classmates, I was like, guys, I'm not really feeling too great today. And they were like, girl, you should probably like tell the teacher. And I was like, okay. So I go to tell the teacher, Meanwhile, she's literally getting her hair colored by one of my classmates. So she's like, sit down, sit down. Somebody call the nurse. So they call the nurse. The nurse comes down as well as like the another one of the admin guys because there's like not necessarily a principal. There's just like a million people who are in charge. But the two of them come down. The nurse is holding my nasal spray and wheeling a wheelchair. And I'm just like, guys, I don't think it's that crazy, but okay. Um, then they're like, do you feel okay to come walk yourself down to the nurse's office? And I was like, yeah, I feel like fine enough to walk. So I walk down there. I'm chilling, laying there. She gives me like a Sprite. I lay there for like, I don't know how long I was there, but I was like, I still don't really feel good. So then I end up going home. And by going home, I mean like texting my mom slash calling my mom to come pick me up because I obviously can't drive myself anywhere. I remember that year for like Christmas, my parents got my friend who was driving me to and from school because I lived on her way to school. Like when she was driving to school, she drove right by my house. But still, she had to like sometimes she had to go out of her way to get me where I needed to go. But that year for Christmas, my parents got her like $200 worth of Speedway gift cards. Shout out. Shout out to both my parents and the girl who drove me everywhere. If you're watching, thank you. You're appreciated. I love you so much. I think that's all. Again, I'm really grateful to be sharing this story. I hope you guys either found this somewhat entertaining, enlightening, or at least you enjoyed listening. I don't really know. Still don't have an outro, so my name is still Aubrey. Cue the non existent outro. Thanks for being here. Bye.